Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning, the sunlight slipping through the blinds, but something feels off. Not outside, inside. It's quiet. Too quiet. Not around you, but in you. It's as if the world has stepped back several feet, and you're left standing alone inside your own thoughts. At first, it feels poetic, almost comforting. You tell yourself, I just need time alone. Time to think. But then the thinking doesn't stop. Hours pass. Then days. Then weeks. Your mind becomes a room with no doors, only mirrors, each one reflecting a different version of you. The you who made a mistake 5 years ago. The you who can't stop worrying about tomorrow. The you who wonders if any of this, any of life, actually matters. And soon, you begin to lose the ability to tell which reflection is real. You try to re-enter the world, but something strange happens. You can't feel sunlight the way you used to. Food tastes muted. Your friends feel distant. Conversations feel scripted. It's as if your mind has become the real world, and the physical world has become the dream. You've spent too long inside your own head, and now the question becomes, what happens when your thoughts stop being a place you visit, and start becoming the place you live? What happens when your inner world grows louder than life itself? When introspection becomes isolation? When reflection becomes rumination? When imagination becomes a cage? Today, we explore the psychological, philosophical, and emotional consequences of spending too long inside your own mind. And more importantly, we explore what you become when the world inside you grows bigger than the world outside. Welcome to the labyrinth. Let's step inside. The echo chamber of thought. Your mind is the most powerful simulation engine ever created. It can project memories, rehearse conversations, imagine futures, rewrite the past, create entire universes, all without you ever lifting a finger. But what happens when you prefer the simulation to reality? Let's start with the first concept, the echo chamber of thought. Because if you spend long enough inside your own mind, something subtle but dangerous begins to happen. Your thoughts stop being tools and start becoming walls. The loop begins. Most people think overthinking is simply thinking too much. But that's not true. Overthinking is thinking in circles. You're not moving forward, you're moving around. Rumination is like being trapped on a mental carousel. You replay the same argument, you revisit the same mistake, you rehearse the same future disaster, you repeat the same self-criticism. And each loop feels productive, but isn't. Imagine a hallway where every door you try to open simply leads back to the same hallway. That is rumination. A cognitive echo chamber. Reality versus rehearsal. When you spend too long inside your thoughts, you begin to live in rehearsal mode instead of experience mode. You simulate conversations instead of having them. You imagine your future instead of building it. You analyze your emotions instead of feeling them. You rewrite your past instead of making new memories. You become more committed to the idea of life than to life itself. Psychologists call this introspection overload. Philosophers call it the illusion of self-understanding. Spiritual traditions call it getting lost in the mind. No matter the language, the meaning is the same. Thinking becomes a substitute for living. When imagination turns against you, your mind is not inherently your ally. It's a storyteller, a prophecy machine, a fear generator, a pattern finder that doesn't like empty space. If reality doesn't give it answers, it will create its own. Spend too long inside your mind, and you begin to overinterpret everything. A late text becomes rejection. A minor mistake becomes catastrophe. A small silence becomes abandonment. A normal fluctuation becomes failure. Your thoughts create stories, and without external input, those stories spiral. You become the author and the prisoner of your own mental fiction. Solipsistic drift. When the echo becomes loud enough, something else happens. You begin to drift towards solipsism, the feeling that only your mind is real. You no longer feel deeply connected to people or places. Life becomes a movie, and you become the observer instead of the participant. You're not living your thoughts anymore. Your thoughts are living you. Reflection, pause. So let me ask you something. How much of your life happens in your mind, and how much happens in the world? How much time do you spend thinking about conversations, instead of having them? Thinking about change, instead of making it? Thinking about living, instead of living? Because the longer you stay inside the echo chamber, the harder it becomes to escape. And this leads us to the next stage of the descent. Dissociation and the fragmenting self. There's a moment in every psychological spiral where things stop feeling normal. You no longer feel like you, or rather, you feel like multiple versions of you all at once. This is where dissociation enters the picture. Dissociation is not madness. It's not a breakdown. It's the mind's way of protecting itself from overload. But spend too long inside your thoughts, and the protection becomes a prison. Identity becomes blurred. Imagine your sense of self as a photograph. Sharp, clear, recognizable. But if you think too deeply, for too long, without grounding yourself in reality, that photograph starts to blur. Edges soften, colors fade, contrast weakens. You begin to feel like an outline rather than a person. You look in the mirror and think, is this really me? Not in a poetic way, but in a literal, unsettling way. Living from a distance. When you spend too much time in your head, you start experiencing life from a distance, as if you are observing your own body from the outside. You become the commentator of your own actions, the narrator of your own movements, the analyst of your own personality. Life becomes a science experiment where you are both the researcher and the subject. And every experience becomes filtered through analysis rather than emotion. Memory distortion. Another subtle danger. When you spend too long inside your mind, memories begin to reshape themselves. You amplify the pain of old mistakes, you soften or rewrite positive moments, you reinterpret neutral events as negative, you highlight patterns that don't actually exist. The past becomes a story your mind tells you, often inaccurately. Your memories become mirrors, not windows. Detachment from the present. The world begins to feel unreal. Colors look dull. Voices sound distant. Time feels slow and heavy. This is the early stage of depersonalization and derealization. Feeling disconnected from yourself or the world. You're not broken. You're not going crazy. You're simply living too much inside your head, a place not meant to be your permanent home. Reflection, pause. So ask yourself, do you ever feel like life is happening over there while you are sitting over here, inside your mind? Do you ever feel like you're watching yourself live rather than actually living? If the answer is yes, you're not alone, and it's about to get deeper. The observer trap. The human mind has a superpower. It can observe itself. But what happens if you observe yourself too much? You fall into something I call the observer trap, a mental state where you spend more time watching your life than living it. Overthinking your own existence. You begin to narrate everything. I'm walking. I'm talking. I'm thinking. I'm making an impression. I'm being perceived. You become self-aware to the point of paralysis. Every action feels rehearsed. Every expression feels constructed. Every decision feels analyzed. You're not in life. You're in commentary mode. Metacognition overload. Metacognition, thinking about thinking, is useful. It helps you understand yourself. It helps you grow. But too much of it creates is social anxiety or identity confusion, emotional numbness, paranoia about how you appear. You start thinking, how am I being seen? What do they think of me? Does this version of me feel authentic? Your inner narrator becomes louder than the world. Spectator syndrome. This is where you detach emotionally. You feel like a spectator watching your life from the outside. Like watching a movie in which you accidentally became the main character. You laugh, but you don't feel joy. You talk, but you don't feel connection. You move, but you don't feel alive. You become a ghost inside your own body. Transition to shadow. And when you spend too long observing yourself, you eventually begin noticing things you once ignored. Insecurities, fears, unresolved conflicts, parts of yourself you've buried. This leads us directly into the fourth chamber of the inner labyrinth. The shadow awaiting you. Carl Jung believed that every person carries a shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we deny, reject, or ignore. But here's the problem. When you spend too long inside your own mind, you have nowhere left to hide from it. The shadow becomes clearer, louder, stronger, and eventually, it demands your attention. Repression intensifies. You may think ignoring your fears makes them weaker. It does the opposite. Ignored emotions rot. Repressed thoughts grow teeth. Buried memories don't disappear, they multiply. When you spend too much time inside your mind, you become the perfect host for them. Your isolation becomes their ecosystem. Intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts aren't signs of madness. They're signs of suppressed emotions trying to escape. The more time you spend alone in your head, the more space these thoughts have to grow. You start thinking, what if I fail? What if they leave? What if I'm not enough? What if something goes wrong? Your shadow feeds on your solitude, the parts of you that you avoid. Think of your mind as a house. Most people live in the bright, decorated rooms. But the shadow lives in the basement. And the longer you stay inside your thoughts, the more you hear noises from below. Old regrets, buried guilt, hidden desires, unfinished grief, unspoken truth. And eventually, you have to go downstairs. Reflection, pause. So ask yourself, what part of you are you hiding from? What emotion have you refused to feel? What truth have you avoided? Because when you spend too much time inside your mind, your shadow moves from the basement to the living room. And at that point, you can't ignore it. Real-world illustration. Let's bring all of this into a single illustrative scenario. The story of Amir, or you. Imagine a man named Amir. A quiet, thoughtful person. Highly introspective. He has dreams, ambitions, friendships, a life worth living. But one day, something small disrupts his routine. A failed project. A breakup. A stressful week. A moment of embarrassment. Nothing catastrophic. Just enough to push him inward. He thinks, I just need a little time alone to understand what's happening. So he withdraws. Just for a day. Then another. Then another. Week 1. The echo chamber forms. Amir begins replaying the triggering moment. He rewrites the conversation in his head. He imagines different outcomes. He rehearses future interactions. He feels productive, as if he's solving something. But he isn't. He's looping. Week 3. Dissociation creeps in. Amir begins feeling unstuck from reality. Food tastes different. Music doesn't move him. He feels like he's watching himself move through the world. People say, "Are you okay?" He smiles and says, "Yeah, I'm just thinking." But he doesn't say, "I don't feel real." Month 2. The observer trap. Amir starts analyzing everything he does. Why did I say that? Was that awkward? Am I doing this right? What are they thinking? His inner narrator becomes so loud it drowns out real life. He starts avoiding social settings because they feel exhausting, not because of people, but because of himself. Month 4. The shadow arrives. Alone with his thoughts, Amir begins noticing darker things rising. Old regrets, buried anger, unexpressed desires, shame, fear. He feels like he's falling into himself, and the deeper he falls, the less he recognizes who he's becoming. Year 1. Full internalization. Amir now lives almost entirely in his mind. He thinks about life more than he lives it. He imagines conversations he never has. He creates versions of himself he doesn't show. He replays the past until it becomes fiction. He imagines futures he never pursues. His inner world is rich, but the outer world is fading. He is alive, but not living. Reflection and escalation. Let's turn the lens toward you. Have you ever wondered why your mind feels heavier at night? Why thoughts become louder when the world becomes quieter? Why you feel more like yourself when you're thinking than when you're living? Because your mind is not a home, it's a workshop. And workshops are not meant to be lived in. If you treat your thoughts as reality, they will consume your reality. If you treat introspection as identity, it will replace your identity. If you treat isolation as safety, it will become your prison. The mind is powerful, but it's not always honest. It's not always your friend. And it's definitely not where you're meant to spend your entire life. Ask yourself, how much life have you missed while thinking about life? How many experiences have you delayed because you needed more time to think? How many memories have you replaced with mental fiction? How many emotions have you analyzed instead of felt? This is the final lesson. The mind is a beautiful place to visit, but if you stay too long, you lose the world. And eventually, you lose yourself. So what happens if you spend too long inside your own mind? You become trapped in the echo chamber of your own thoughts. You lose your sense of self through dissociation and overanalysis. You stop living your life and start observing it. You awaken your shadow and feed the parts of yourself you've avoided. You detach from the world until your inner reality becomes louder than the outer one. But here's the hopeful truth. You can always come back. Your mind is not a prison. It's a compass. It's meant to guide you, not confine you. It's meant to illuminate life, not replace it. You are not meant to be a spectator of existence. You are meant to be here, in the world, with people, in moments, in sensations, in experiences. So step out of your thoughts. Step into your life. Let your mind be a place you visit, not the place you live. Because the world needs your presence, not just your thoughts. And so do you.